Hello everybody. Why are we outside? It is not because we're about to do a test. I'm not going to demonstrate anything that's going to take advantage of being outside today, but it is a beautiful day. We are heading into the fall territory. It just feels nice. I live in Florida. This is Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, and it's just, I can feel the slightest hint of fall happening. There's a little bit of cool air, feels kind of nice. The other reason we're outside is because all my gear is packed up in my van for a shoot tomorrow and I can't start unloading stuff. So you clicked on this video because it said, so nice, I bought it twice. And what I'm talking about is a specific lens that I like so much, I bought it twice.
In a world where nuclear war has begun, vampires fought back in super real 3D.
And that is the ROKINON Cine 24mm prime lens. It goes to a T1.5. When it's a Cine modded lens, you work in T-stops instead of f-stops. If you're wondering why that's a T1.5 instead of like a f1.4. T-stops are actually, even though it's a 1.5, that's just as bright as a 1.4. The bottom line is that lens is phenomenal. I've used it so much on so many projects. It's pretty much my default go-to lens to start off most any shoot. Part of that has to do with I want to start with a wider lens and assess what's happening in my environment that I've either lit or that has a lot of people moving through it. I just want to get a better idea of what's happening as a whole before I start honing in on the tight shots, because to be honest, tight shots with a longer lens are easier to manage in that you just have less that you need to be worrying about. It's all centralized on a single object or a single face, a single thing. It compresses the image more, but when you use a wide lens, you're really revealing everything. And so I like to start off with a wide lens, and that 24mm I use all the time. Now, one of the things that I use that 24mm for so often is for interviews. And a lot of people would say don't use a 24mm for interviews, but I've had results that I really like. There's a whole vibe to using a wide lens, and I'm going to do that in the next video, kind of talk about what lenses I use for what interviews. But I've gotten away with using the 24mm on plenty of interviews, love the way that it looks. Why did I buy it twice though? It's not that great that I wanted two of them. I mean, well, actually, I do have multiple cameras. It would have been nice to have two, but I don't have two. I bought it twice because one broke, and it wasn't the lens's fault necessarily. Maybe if it was made out of a metal housing, it would have withstood what happened. And what happened was I had a lens bag, different type of lens bag at the time. Right now I'm using I have a backpack that holds all my lenses. I've never had an issue with it, but I had a different lens bag. It was like a side strap thing. I had it on and I was loading out. I had tons of stuff in my arms. I had my lens bag strapped over me and I jumped down off of a loading dock, actually. So it's kind of a big jump, but I was feeling pretty kung fu-y that day. Felt like I could handle it, wanted to get out of there. I was loading out. I want to go home, eat something. I was starving. And that strap just broke and the whole lens bag just hit right on the ground. I was like, oh my God. I picked it up. I had some valuable lenses in there. And this being one of the, and especially this time, one of the most valuable lenses I've had. This is a $750 lens, and that was in there. I checked all the lenses. Every lens looked fine. I didn't see a crack, but I was still really nervous. All my lenses just hit the ground in a relatively thinly packed bag. One was broken. One could not pull focus anymore accurately. It was like forever soft, and that was the 24mm, so it did break on impact. Now that was most round. It had the biggest circumference to it, so there's a good chance that when that bag hit, it was the first lens to take the impact. So it's not necessarily because of the plastic housing. Like I said, that housing was not cracked. I sent it to ROKINON to attempt to repair it, and they got back with me and said that it was basically unrepairable. You just have to replace all the elements and stuff. And so they offered to reimburse me another lens at a highly discounted price. I think $450, which is almost half price. I was happy to get it back. When I got it back, immediately popped it back on my cameras, and I just love this lens. I don't regret having gotten it again at all. I felt really out of it not having it. The ROKINON Cine series of primes, are so affordable in comparison to what you'd normally have to pay for lenses that are attempting to do what these do. Cine lenses, like legit ones, like all the way, you know, they started around a couple of grand a piece. They easily go up to $5 grand a piece quickly. People oftentimes, when I do meet with other cinematographers, they just assume that I was using full Cine glass, you know, like legit Cine glass. And when they find out that it's the Rokinons, they're like, man, I've had great success with those too. So you can do a tremendous amount, as you can see. Now, another thing about getting the Cine mod, I've never used a follow focus. I've never bought a follow focus. In fact, I was looking heavily at getting a follow focus for a considerable amount of time, multiple times, which is a system that's just a dial that slides onto the side, and you can actually pull focus with a rotating dial. And it actually has a wheel, and that connects to the gear rings that are on the lens, and so it's a different way to pull focus. I always end up not getting it because it's just going to make the camera system that much heavier and make me that much slower when I'm changing out lenses. And I really do like changing lenses a lot on a production, and just the reality is, even in a controlled environment, especially as a single operator, it would slow me down too much. But the thing is that those Cine gears really do matter. What you're really getting with a lens that has been Cine modded is clickless aperture. So rather than moving in notches and being evident that you're changing aperture, you're actually able to gradually just change it the slightest hair, so you can actually keep up with a changing environment, and you're just worried about your aperture and just riding it slightly, and to the viewer, they don't even know that that's changing. Plus, those gears, even though I'm not using a follow focus, can actually do is I can use 2 fingers, and I have one on the aperture ring and one on the focal ring, and I can slide them the slightest bit in and out. The amount of control and nuance that you get out of that versus having to grip a normal photography lens like many of us are using, and having to really twist your wrist to get into the focus point that you want. And if it's an aperture thing, if you're moving in steps like and it's just painfully evident, you never want to put one of those shots into your edit unless it's the absolute only thing that happened in reality and somebody said something, you're trying to show it. Even then, try to bounce to a visual shot just for that split second of like what they're talking about to cover up that your aperture just notched like that. And you can hear the clicks. Well, actually, maybe you can't because I've got a lav mic on, but you see how it's physically moving in clicks. Here, I'll put it up right next to the mic. Clickless ring, an actual Cine modded ring, is amazing, and that's what you get with all the Cine modded Rokinon lenses that are really the most affordable Cine lenses that I know of. I'm sure there's other companies that have started to come out with more, but I haven't looked back since I've been so happy with these Rokinons. So I really recommend the 24mm in particular. I'd say it is my favorite of my Rokinon lenses. I have the 24, the 14, the 35, and the 85. However, I will say, actually, I should point out, I'm not that crazy about the 14mm that I have. Now, I did buy it used, just a disclaimer there. It's always felt soft. Now, I don't, for all I know, maybe this one took a fall, but it's like it's always just a little softer than I like. So I'm not crazy about the 14mm, but that can quickly be a characteristic of a super wide lens like that, is that it's hard to get those feeling very sharp to begin with. I'm filming this on a Canon 16 to 35mm zoom lens that only goes to an f2.8. I mean, this is a better lens. It's also significantly more expensive. To get them brand new, you're in the $1,800 to $2,100 ballpark, depending on what's happening with the sales at the time. Anyway, I like this lens a lot too. This is actually my newest lens, and I got it because I got the Canon EOS R, and I wanted one that had autofocus on it so I could take advantage of the autofocus on the EOS R and put it on a Ronin and use it for a gimbal system. And also, I have now been practicing more and more with my fly cam. One of the default things that everyone should have if you have a camera is a great wide prime lens. That's just going to give you, you're going to be able to do so much with it, and it's going to help you out in low light situations. And for me, my recommendation, if you can afford it, is the Rokinon Cine 24mm. Anyway, catch you on the next one, guys, which I'm going to be talking about interviews and lenses. This is going to be a really important one. I'm going to talk about some really key things that help me make quick decisions on set confidently when it comes to setting up for interviews and what lens I choose. If you dig this kind of content, you want to know when these episodes are coming out, by all means, please do hit the subscribe button. If you don't do that, whatever, maybe you can throw me a like, that would be cool. But if you really dig everything and you want to know more and more and more and keep up with the kind of projects that I'm doing, because I'm going to be doing one on the making of this Trans Am video. I mean, this is the only company in the world that makes Trans Ams. Amazing cars that are just 1,000 horsepower insanity. Either way, I hope you found this of value, and if you do get that lens, I just don't know how you would be disappointed with it. But you could comment below and let me know if you ran into something where you didn't dig it. I would be very, very surprised. Anyway, see you later.